Yo, what's up guys, it's Gamefreak and I'm here to review the complete series Infinite Stratos. Girls with mechs and a guy just trying to keep his male end up. Let's go. Okay, so what's up? I'm reviewing Infinite Stratos. Let's just kind of jump right into it. So, essentially, Infinite Stratos is a show that came out about a year ago, 2011 for those who are watching this video, like in the way future or some shit. And the show is pretty simple in story and plot, and here it is. Essentially, you have a main male character named Ichika. It's a harem, mecha, romance, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Essentially, in this world, there are these mechs called IS, Infinite Stratos. What a clever way to work in the title of the video. Yeah, you can see there's not going to be that much effort put into that. So as you have these machines called Infinite Stratos. Essentially these are IS. They're essentially mechs that was created by one of the main harem characters' older sister. And essentially, because there's a limited number of them, like certain countries have certain amounts of them. But in all, as of right now, I believe it's like less than 500, it's like 400 and something. And essentially because there's so little of them, and because there's like this restriction placed on them that you can't use these for military warfare, all they're really used for is kind of just sporting events and kind of just technologically research gathering and everything. The whole point is that Ichika is the only guy that can use them, because for some reason only girls have been able to use them up until this point. So everyone just made the assumption that men couldn't use them. Obviously, for the harem, the main male character has to be very special in his own little way. And his special little way is the fact that he's the only one who can use an IS. So essentially he gets sent to the school. The school is the only school in the country that kind of teaches you about IS to be used in very casual ways. And essentially that's what the story starts off. It's literally just him going through school, this IS academy full of girls, and creating a harem along the way, like all harems do. Now, to get into like the female characters, you have, I believe it's about 4. It's Hoki Shinono, I forget her last name, but Rin, Charles, and Laura Baldwig. Oh, and Cecilia. So it's about 5 girls. And to really talk about what is good and bad about the series is kind of like, alright, let's put it this way. Because of such a simplistic plot, it's not really too much to these girls. And the problem I have with the series right off the bat is the fact that when you're first introduced to these girls, like 2 of the girls have almost the same kind of backstory. For example, Hoki is the first girl you're introduced to. She is a childhood friend of Ichika, because we gotta play that card. And then you have Cecilia, who's kind of like a tsundere-ish girl. And then right after her, you're introduced to Rin, who is a childhood friend. And I'm like, wait a minute, so you're going to introduce 2 childhood friend characters? What the fuck? And essentially, the way they explain this is that since Hoki's sister created IS, and she's the only one who knows how to create them, when they were younger, she knew Ichika for a little while, and then like, when her sister created the IS, they had to go into witness protection because, if you have the ability to create all that kind of technology, and you're the only one who knows how to do it, you're not really in the safest position in the world. So she had to move away from the witness protection program. And during that time, she moved away. She moved away for a while. Rin had showed up like a year after she had left, and then Ichika's known Rin up until like maybe a year or two ago. And but the whole point is just like, why would you introduce a female character who's like, why would you introduce 2 female characters who have the same kind of backstory? And you're thinking, oh, it can't get any much worse. And then they introduce Charles, an exchange student. And then, like, 2 or 3 episodes later, they introduce Laura, who was an exchange student. And I'm like, wow, we're not even trying to be clever with these characters. Now, a lot of people would say, well, it's a harem mecha. How's the mecha? And honestly, in my opinion, the mecha is actually pretty solid. I enjoyed the shit out of the fights. It's essentially what it is. It's CGI mech fights with them putting the animation on top of it. So like, there are special features on the DVDs. Essentially, what they did is they did like the CGI models for the mechs, and then they put the characters on top of it, so it worked. And contrary to what you think, the CGI actually fits with the anime pretty well. You can honestly tell. It honestly doesn't feel like it's CGI, and I like that. I like it when it flows nicely with the show, and that's what the mech does. Like, the mech fights are actually pretty solid. They're pretty enjoyable. I enjoy the hell out of it. There was really no problems with the mech fights. Now to talk about the harem romance aspect. Now, I've already mentioned these characters, but let me kind of just go into details in terms of characteristics and how each character kind of flows out. Cecilia is essentially this is probably the kind of the flattest part of the series, in my opinion, because like half of these characters don't really have legitimate reasons for like I think like 2 of these characters don't even have legitimate reasons for liking Ichika. Essentially, Hoki's always had a crush on Ichika, so I kind of just let that one slide under the rug. The same, and obviously since Rin has essentially the same kind of backstory, it's the same thing for her. Even though Ren's is more valid because Ren has known Ichika longer, whereas Hoki, it's like you knew him since you was like until he was like 4 or 5. It's like, how are you still having that crush? How is that still a legitimate crush? I don't know. But that's just me nitpicking. Fucking Cecilia's reasons for liking him is essentially Cecilia, when you're first introduced to her. Also, there are country representatives from each country. Cecilia is the British representative. Ren is the Chinese one. Charles is the French representative, and Laura is the German representative. And there are 2 different types of IS. There are normal IS, and then there are personal IS. If you're a representative for a country, you have a particular IS. So Cecilia, Laura, Charles, and Hoki eventually, and Ren all have personal ISs, and so does Ichika. Because Ichika is the only guy, so obviously he would be special in his own right. But essentially, Cecilia and Ichika end up having the first fight of the series. And Ichika almost wins, and for whatever reason, that made her be like, I love you, so now she has like a bullshit crush on him. Charles, I think if you've talked to anyone who likes the series, they'll tell you right up front. Charles is almost everybody's favorite girl. For a lot of reasons. For one, she's the one who gets the most character development, and 2, a lot of people just like her as a character. Like, she is, I will admit, she's my favorite too. But that's just I've never been a fan of the main character. Even though there's a joke running in the commentaries, you'll notice in the DVDs. It seems like Charles has a lot more lines than you would think Hoki does. Like that for a main lead, Hoki is underplayed like a motherfucker. She's only played up at the beginning and at the end. Like, other than that, she's really underplayed. It's like in the middle, she's almost like downgraded to like 2nd or 3rd tier in terms of girls. I'm like, what the fuck? But like, Charles has like probably the only legitimate reason for liking him. Then you have Laura, who starts off hating him because he stole his sister away. Because that's another thing I have to mention. Ichika's sister is the teacher, and I guess you'll find out later in the plot why that is. But let's just say Laura has a sense of resentment for Ichika because he stole his sister away. You'll get explained that the further you go into the series. And honestly, the romance sounds kind of flat purely because, for one, as I've already mentioned, most of the girls don't have really any real development with Ichika. And the thing about Infinite Stratos that I wasn't a fan of is that it plays the same kind of bullshit bias that like other shows like Rosario Plus Vampire or Mahara. I can't pronounce this fucking show. As much as I've mentioned this show, I still can't fucking pronounce it. Mahabarajo plays the whole certain character biases. But the difference is it's not as like aggravating, and it's still balanced, and it's unfair. Like, it's probably the most tolerable that kind of one-sided love shit is. But kind of just going into that's one thing, and then the other thing is probably just because they throw in 2 plot points in the series. They throw one of them in during a tournament, and they throw another one in at the end. And I think the biggest issue for Infinite Stratos is 2 things. For one, there's not enough mech fighting for some people, and 2, it tries to take itself seriously, and it shouldn't have. Like, there are points where it tries to introduce plot elements that don't even fucking go anywhere. And it's like, if you had just took that time out and actually just focused on the characters, like, there's a tournament that starts around episode 6 or 7. There's a tournament that starts. And the tournament is interrupted in the first fucking fight of the tournament. by some unknown plot device that doesn't even go anywhere. So essentially, it's like you created a tournament to have these characters fight, and then you created the situation so Laura could fall in love with Ichika, and then you just, and that was apparently the whole point of the plot device, not to actually go anywhere with a plot, but to just get Laura into I like you bullshit mode with Ichika. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, that's such a waste of a plot device. And they do it again at the end. At the end, it's done a little bit better, but at the same time, I'm just like, why didn't you just focus on the characters? If you had just stopped trying to take this as seriously and did it as fights, like just did mech fights, and had them do the tournament and had them do the character development throughout the tournament, it would have been cool. But no, you had to try to throw in these bullshit plot devices so you could change the scenery and shit. And I'm like, you tend not to give a fuck about these plot devices because it's a harem, and it kind of aggravates some fans because it's like you're trying to take it seriously and you shouldn't. Especially good for fans of the series, because like, this is what kind of shoots it in the foot. It's like you don't develop half the girls, and then on top of not developing half the girls, you just fucking, you go into this whole bullshit plot devices to start love triangles and shit, and it doesn't really go anywhere. I hate almost all the plot devices in here are stupid because they don't go into a real plot. They're just used as like bullshit explanations to go into things. Like there are 2 tournaments in here. They can only last maybe like 2 episodes because they both got interrupted by bullshit. And I'm like, what's the point? Why would you do that? If you had just focused it normally and stopped trying to throw in these extra factors that don't mean anything. And that maybe it could have set it up for a second season and the show could have been better for it. Now, I want to talk about something that you may not know of yet, because technically as I'm recording this, the dub isn't even released. Like, the DVDs haven't come out for the US audience. It comes out like on the 10th of April. I'm recording this like on the 2nd. To just go ahead and explain what that thing is all about. A lot of people don't like the dub, and the reason why, I think I mentioned in one of my vlog channel videos, and if you don't know about my vlog channel, the link is in the description. A lot of people don't like the videos because, you know, as I said, these characters, mostly the characters are from different countries, and what the Sentai dub decided to do was actually give those characters accents. Even though in the Japanese version they just sound moe as fuck. A lot of people's bitching with the show is the fact that the characters don't sound moe. Me personally, I prefer the dub. The dub makes the show a lot more enjoyable. Like, the show is mediocre at best, but when the dub to me bumps it up to a little bit more enjoyable. Like, when I rewatched it for the dub made it so much more enjoyable, and I didn't even struggle through the show. Like, when I first watched it in Japanese subtitles, I was kind of like, meh. Like, I kind of forgot a lot of things because I kind of didn't give a fuck. But then I watched the dub, and the dub is a lot more fun. To me, the dub is hilarious. And I do like most of the characters' voices. The only complaints I really have about the dub is really in terms of some voices don't sound the right pitch, but nothing really in terms of voice acting. In terms of voice acting, I don't really have a problem. I just think, for like Hoki's voice, I think her voice is a little weird in terms of the pitch. Not necessarily the acting with that pitch voice, but just the pitch kind of threw me off. I think it's her voice. A lot of people complained about Charles because Charles is, as I said, everyone's favorite character, and they gave her a French accent. And I could see the complaint with that one, but what they tried to do was the same thing the Japanese did. They tried to find a person who could do like a boyish, girlish voice, and they do it. And it's actually pretty enjoyable. I liked it. I liked the voice. I mean, it took me maybe like within the episode the character was introduced. It took me a minute to get used to the voice, but like, it's not really that much of an issue, and she's fucking hilarious in the dub. I still fucking love that voice. I still have, I think that's the only voice I'm very split in the middle in terms of voice, because I like the dub voice for Charles, and I also love the sub voice for Charles. But everyone else, I was fine with. I enjoyed everyone. As I said, there was like some pitch, like I didn't think Hoki's voice should have been as high as it is in the dub, or Tabanu's voice sounds a little off too, but that's in terms of pitching, not in terms of voice acting. I think the voice acting was fucking awesome. I like the writing too. So, in my opinion, if you are going to take a crack at this show as a harem, mecha-harem, I would go for the dub, because the dub is a lot more enjoyable. The only other thing I noticed in the dub is Ichika's voice. No offense, but for harems, always go with the dub for male characters, because, except for Kanokan. Kanokan go eat a dick and go burn fire and go burn hell. Fuck that show. I always gotta like throw in a fuck Kanokan in like these harem reviews. Oh shit. But in terms of like dubs, I always prefer male characters except for my thing. But the whole thing with Ichika is, that's the other problem you might have an issue with Ichika's character. I think he's an okay character. They start introducing a moral of his like in the last 2 episodes. I'm like, what's the fucking point? You're introducing the last 2 episodes where it doesn't fucking matter. Ichika's really fucking dense. And it's like you're watching a harem, so you expect the male character to be dense, but it's like, it's almost borderline retarded how dense Ichika is. Especially considering how weird, like, his personality contradicts how his denseness. Like, he is really fucking dense when it comes to these girls. And it's kind of aggravating because he's overly dense. And that kind of irks me a little bit. It's not like, it's not blatantly annoying, but it's kind of fucking annoying. But then again, if you're used to harems, you're kind of used to the main characters being dense anyway. In terms of the DVD extras, I guess I should mention that. I would if you're gonna get the DVD, it doesn't really matter which. Get the Blu-ray if you're a graphic over. Me personally, I think the DVD is fine. It comes with like, you get the OVA, the 14 episode OVA, which honestly is actually what I would have preferred more of the episodes to have been. A lot more chilled episodes and shit, but they didn't fucking do that. But the OVA was cool. It comes with like a soundtrack CD, and it comes with like a whole bunch of Japanese special features, which is the fucking Radio IS, which has like the Japanese voice actresses for Hoki, Ren, and Cecilia. Cecilia, voice actor, Seiyu in Japanese. Oh my god, so cute. It also comes with Japanese commentaries. Honestly, I think the special features are really cool. And I've said this before, like, I think the special features are cool, and it's very rare to get these kind of special features for DVDs. The only problem I've had, and it's the same problem as I always, is that the show to me isn't really good enough for me to give a fuck about it. But contrary to me saying that to you, I did sit down and watch, like, I listened to the OVA. I mean, I watched the OVA. I did listen to the Radio IS thing, which is, as I said, is the whole thing with the voice actresses. I listened to some of the commentaries, because no offense, but with commentaries, you kind of prefer to listen to the dub commentaries. You gotta be one hell of a weeaboo. Like, to me, Japanese commentary should only be on sub-only DVDs, because if you're listening to a sub version of a show anyway, that probably means that you have probably a sub bias anyway. Some people just prefer sub, but there are a lot of people who just have sub biases. Infinite Stratos is one of those shows that's really going to be that big of a deal, so I didn't really... I mean, as I said, they're nice extras, and I did enjoy them when I did go through them, but do I think they were necessary, and does it kill me that I didn't have the fucking Japanese commentaries? Not really, because Infinite Stratos isn't that good of a show. As I say, it's kind of a meh, okay. It's kind of like if you're not used to harem, jump into it, but other than that, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Also, just to go ahead and talk about the fan service, it's not even that big of a deal. Maybe it's because I'm used to watching fan service, but I didn't even really notice that much of it. Like, only maybe like, almost, I think the most fan service you got was like during the whole Shaw's reveal thing. Which if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch like episodes, I believe it's like 5 through 7. This whole Shaw's reveal thing was like one of the most times you got fan service. Almost, I think Shaw's was the character you got the most fan service with, ironically. You got a little bit with some of the other characters. Only really like Shaw, Cecilia, Hoki. A random one with Laura. I don't even think you got any with Ren, honestly. Like, it's not that much fan service. It's like, there's fan service in it, but it's not really that big of a deal. And it's so far in between for the most part, except for certain episodes. It's not really, I don't know. I can't see anyone complaining about it. But all in all, that's Infinite Stratos in a nutshell. It's a good show. It's fun to watch. It's kind of a popcorn flick. It's like, I don't vote it as a high harem. I think it's okay, mediocre, okay, but that's about it. Like, that's just me though, personally. I don't even know if I would say buy it. It's meh. I think you can watch it on I think you can watch it on the Anime Network. I will check it out there first. And if you like it there, then just go ahead and get it. But meh. I know that seems kind of anticlimactic for this kind of review, but just meh. Like, I don't do this many man reviews, but that's really what Infinite Stratos in a nutshell is. It's not necessarily great, it's not necessarily amazing, it's just meh. Like, you can if you want to, but it's not necessarily a show that you gotta watch. You can honestly skip it if you really wanted to. But that's just me. I think it's okay. I think the dub is better. And I guess that's about it. So for those who've seen Infinite Stratos, leave your comments and reasonings for why you should or should not watch the show. Leave your thoughts and comments about the show in the description. In the comment section. Video responses are always welcome. Links. My brain kind of died on me for a second. Like links to, all my stuff, second channel, vlog, Blip TV, email, Skype, all that other shit. It's all in the description section below. Anyways, this has been the Insane Gamefreak. Life's a game, play to win, and I'll catch you guys later. It should be a snowball thing. It should go from, point A to like Z. Peace.